Here's what people don't get about building systems. They think it's about getting paid for the machine. That's just half the game. The other half is making sure the machine gets paid for, and most people skip that part completely. What do I mean? They build a system that saves 20 hours a week, but they don't translate that into something their boss actually cares about, like how much revenue it enabled or how many errors it prevented. That's not a system, that's just work that no one notices until it breaks. This is Work Yourself Out of a Job, the show about building systems that make you redundant. I'm Mikey, and today we're talking about the receipts, those documents that turn your system into a promotion-worthy moment instead of a quiet whisper in a meeting. So here's the core idea, and why it pays. Systems are invisible unless they're measured, and measurable results are what get promoted. Your system has to be translated into the organization's language, time saved, errors avoided, revenue enabled, risk reduced. You're not building a machine to prove you're a hard worker. You're building one to prove you're a game changer. That translation is what we call the receipt. Let me walk you through how to build one. Step 1. Identify the task. What's the process you're going to automate or improve? If you're handling customer onboarding, that's your starting point. But don't just name it. Dig into what that looks like for real. If it's data entry, measure how long each entry takes. If it's report generation, track how many revisions get sent back and how much time that eats up. That's the baseline you're going to compare against. Step 2, track baseline metrics. This is critical. Before you touch anything, record exactly how long it takes, how many errors you get, how much time you spend in follow-ups. If you're doing onboarding, measure how long each customer takes, what the error rate is, and how many corrections are needed. Step 3, build your system. Whether it's a template, a script, or an automation tool, create it so that tasks becomes faster, more accurate, and repeatable. It should be something you can hand off, scale, and trust. Step 4, remeasure post-implementation. Do the same thing you did before. Get the same numbers again, but now after the system is in place. You're not just testing if it works, you're quantifying what it's worth. Step 5, document results. That's your receipt. It has to include time saved, errors avoided, revenue enabled, or risk reduced, whatever applies to your situation. And every number must be anchored to a documented pre-system baseline. You're not going to win promotions for being a hard worker. You're going to win them for being measurable. Step 6, present the receipt to leadership. Frame it in their language. If they track revenue, talk about revenue enabled. If they track risk, talk about risk reduced. This is a forward-looking case, not a complaint about how hard you used to work. Step 7, repeat and refine. As your system changes, so should your receipts. You're not done until it's part of the ongoing story of what your team now has because of your work. Now here's what people get wrong. First, they skip the baseline measurement entirely. If you don't know where you started, you can't prove how much you moved. That's not a receipt, that's a guess. Second, they use vague language. I worked hard, I did a lot. That's noise. Leadership has heard it 1,000 times. Vague claims like that are just background static in a room full of data. Third, they don't align with the organization's own metrics. If your company tracks risk, don't talk about time saved unless you can connect that to reduced risk. If you're not speaking their language, nobody's listening. Fourth, they present receipts like complaints as evidence of how tough life was before instead of proof of what now exists. That shifts focus away from the future and back into the past. The receipt should be your team's new normal, not a cry for mercy. Fifth, they neglect to document their results. Without documentation, there's no receipt. You're not just doing a job, you're building a case study, and it has to be built with facts, not feelings. Okay, here's the takeaway. The only thing that gets you promoted is a receipt. A receipt that says, I reduced errors from 5 to 0, or I saved 12 hours a week, is going to be noticed by leadership. A receipt that says, I worked hard, won't. Every number must be anchored to a documented pre-system baseline. The only things that get rewarded are impacts, not effort. Impact is the only currency that matters when it comes to advancement. People don't get promoted for trying hard. They get promoted for provable, measured change. Let me tell you something else. It's not enough to just show what the system did. You have to make sure leadership can see the value without having to ask. So if your team was spending 2 hours per day on a process and now it takes 10 minutes, that's great. But don't stop there. Say exactly how many days of that time saved is worth in terms of productivity, how much more work can be done, or even what revenue that freed up. If your system cut down the number of customer complaints from 15 to 3 per month, show how that translates into improved retention rates or fewer support tickets. It's not about just fixing something, it's about making sure everyone knows why they should care. And here's the thing, you don't just build a receipt once. You keep building them, because when your system gets used by others, when it becomes part of the way things work, those receipts need to evolve with it. So let's go deeper on what makes a real receipt stand out. It starts with clarity in numbers and context. If you're measuring time saved, don't just say you cut down on hours. Say how much time your team now has left over, whether that's to focus on bigger projects or to take a breather. If you're reporting error reduction, show not only the numbers but also the human cost, maybe fewer rework cycles, lower stress levels, faster delivery times. If you're talking about revenue enabled, don't just say your system boosted sales. Show what those extra dollars mean in relation to other goals, whether that's increasing headcount capacity, funding a new feature, or improving project margins. One more thing, it helps to be concrete when you're framing your impact. So instead of saying I streamlined workflows, say I created a checklist that reduced onboarding time from 4 hours to 1.5 hours. That's the kind of specificity that makes people sit up and take notice. Also, remember to tie everything back to metrics they already care about. If your boss cares about risk, don't talk about saving time or increasing speed unless you can connect those things to better compliance or fewer audits. Finally, make sure your receipt isn't just a one-time thing. It becomes part of the ongoing story of the team's success. Each time you add another data point, improve performance, or automate something new, you're updating your receipt. And when leadership hears that, they start thinking about you not as someone who keeps working hard, but as someone who keeps delivering results. And that brings us full circle. The only thing that gets you promoted is a receipt, a clear, documented case of impact, anchored to real data and tied directly to metrics your leadership values. Not effort, not good intentions, impact. You don't build a system to prove you're a good worker. You build it to prove you're a problem solver. That's how you make yourself redundant in the best way possible. This is Work Yourself Out of a Job. If this one earned its time, the full system is inside the course at learn.mikey.ai. I'm Mikey. Build systems, make receipts, get promoted.